couple of questions. I'll start off with the teams that I know about. And those teams are the ones who posted their mind map on Twitter. There are 4 of them that I saw at least as of yesterday. And that is AgriConnect. Where is AgriConnect?
Tumhaise Maureen.
Maureen,
yes.
Okay. In one sentence, tell me what your solution is trying to solve, the problem.
Our application mainly is trying to provide information to farmers so that they can be able to improve on their skills.
Excellent. Do you have anyone in your team who has a financial background or who is interested in finance? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Have you, so far, found out how much you've put into the development of your product so far? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Do you know the value of your time per hour? Yes or no?
Yes.
Do you know how many hours you've put into the product development so far? The whole team? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, excellent. Do you know how much money you need to break even?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Maureen. Agreed? So you see how important Twitter is?
Our product is going to help farmers to get a larger market that is out of their regions.
Okay, so a bit close to AgriConnect?
For them, they're providing information to improve on the farmer skills.
Okay.
Well, for us, we are helping them to sell their produce more.
Okay, good. Do you have anyone on your team who has a financial background? No. Do you know the value of your time per hour?
Not yet.
No. Do you know how many hours so far you put in? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Do you know how much money you need to get to your MVP? I think you learned about that this.
Yeah, an estimate.
Okay. And if you're going to pitch this product, who on your team would be pitching it?
We have.
Would it be you?
We have the 4th person who will be doing the pitching.
Thank you. The other team is eMoment. Who on your team would be pitching your product to a potential investor?
It's me.
It will be you.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how much time and money you've put in so far?
Not really exactly.
Yes or no?
No. Yes.
Do you have anyone on your team who has a financial background?
No.
Do you know how much money it would take you to break even?
An estimate. Yes.
Okay. And then so far, do you know how much money in total you've... Okay, I already asked that.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have anyone on your team who is a marketeer?
No.
Okay. So far, the money you've put in, where did you get it from? Yourselves?
Yes.
Family and friends?
Yes, family and friends.
Have you gotten a bank loan yet?
A bank?
A bank loan?
Not yet.
Do you intend to?
Yes.
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 Okay. Thank you. Do you have anyone on your team who has a financial background?
Yes.
Do you know how much money you put in so far?
Yes.
Do you know the value of your time per hour?
Yes.
Do you know how many hours your team has put in so far?
Yes.
Do you know how much money you need to break even?
Yes.
If you're pitching this product to someone, who would be pitching it on your team? Why him? He's the only guy here. Why him? Why? Why not you?
I can, but maybe he's better than me.
Why would he be better than you?
Yes, okay. Maybe he has a lot of wordings.
Maybe. It's a maybe. And you, why would he have more? Why don't you believe in yourself? You should be pitching. Why are you not pitching? You're a lady, you're developing the thing. You know all the answers to the finance.
Yes.
So why is he the one pitching?
To bring up the concept very well.
And you think you can't?
I can, but not too confident of myself.
Get confident. You'll be the one pitching.
Okay.
We need a lady pitching to do something to do with circles when the majority of the people in the circles are women, right?
Yes.
So why would a guy be pitching a product that is designed for women, by women, and for women? Right?
Yes.
You should be pitching.
Yes.
Okay. So the money you put in so far, where did you get it from?
Ourselves.
Yourselves.
Yes.
Did you get some from friends and family?
Not yet.
Not yet. Do you intend to?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how much you need to get to your MVP?
Yes.
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 Okay. Thank you.
Nasanga Jalia.
Nasanga Jalia. Okay. Do you have anyone on your team who has a financial background?
No,
No. Do you know how much money you put in so far?
no,
Do you know how much time you invested in this so far?
yes,
And do you know the value of your time?
no,
No. Okay. Do you know how much money you need to get to your MVP?
yes,
Yes. Do you know how much money you need to break even?
yes.
If you were pitching this product to a potential investor, who would be speaking on your behalf?
I'll be speaking.
You will be the one pitching.
Yes.
Okay, in one sentence, tell me about your product.
Our product is a mobile app, which is intending to help women in their circle groups be able to save their money and also request for loans and also keep track of their balances and credits.
Is it different from any other products on the market already?
We've not yet seen much of the difference, but the only difference we have is that we are going to be giving it free of charge and then get some of the percentage as they save.
Okay. Do you know if it's any different from their circle product? From theirs, they're also doing a product to do with circles. Okay, we're going to talk about financial management because, as you can see, financial management is just as important as product development. You may not think so right now, but it is. I may have a product that is crappier than your product, but I have the money to get it to the market. I have the money to market it. I have the money to actually get people to use it and pay me for it, which means my product, which is inferior to your product, will actually get there before your product. Why? Because I've managed my finances well. So if there is one thing you to take from this talk, at least, is that financial management is just as important as product development. From the small survey I've done, very few of you actually have someone with a financial background on your team. That's understandable. You're developers. However, do not allow it to continue that way. You have to know how much money you're putting in. You have to know how much money you need. So today, talking about financial management is literally just about that. To know how much money you have, how much money you need, how much money so far you've invested into your development at any one time. So that if at any one time I come to you and I'm like, AgriConnect, how much money have you sunk into your product right now? You should be able to tell me off your fingertips. And why is that very important? It is because, as I said, financial management is just as important as product development. The main reason why financial management is just as important as product development is that it's only those companies that manage their finances that are able to attract finance. Money follows money. If you don't know how much money you have, how much money you spend, how much money you need, no one is actually going to be putting in their money because you appear like I'll be giving you my money and you'll be losing it. So as someone who is maybe looking for potential investment, you need to know how much money you're using, how much money you need to break even, how much money do you need to get to your MVP. And then when you're pitching to people after you got into your MVP, the first thing they will ask you, first of all, what is the value of your product? The value of your product includes your time. And for you to figure out how much that is, just assume that you are actually hired by someone. If you're a senior developer on the market, how much are you paid? And then multiply that by the number of hours you have, by the number of team members you have, and that's the value so far of your product. And then you can add more value to your product by getting a domain name for it. Does the domain name already exist? Do you have to pay for it? And if you do, how much is that? If you don't, can you grab it right now? Then you need to know your competition as well. You need to know what products actually on the market. The two circles there, I mean, if I was one of them, I would want to know what the other person is doing. Because if I don't know my competition, and then I go pitch a product that is already out there, who is going to give me money for it? No one will, actually. So you need to know what your competition is. You need to know what your comparative advantage is. And this is very much connected to financial management. Because if you're already pitching a product that is already available, no one will actually be paying for your product either. So in a way, you need to connect the two together. And then also it will help you when you manage your finances well. It will help you figure out when did you break even, have you made any money, or are you just sinking more of your money into this bottomless pit. And if you are, then you kind of need to cut loose and go, or you need to partner with someone. So that's why financial management is just as important as product development. Product development alone, yes, important, but equally critical is financial management. That's why you see people, developers who have excellent products that when you go and talk to them and they show you around it, it's fantastic. It's better than everything out there. But those things out there manage their finances, so that's why they're out there. Then this one with a fantastic product maybe didn't manage their product, so they weren't able to attract capital. They weren't able to manage how their product, they weren't able to market it. They weren't able to put it on the market, therefore, and therefore they're stuck with it on their laptop, even if it's a fantastic product. I know most of you are developing products that are actually going to be very good for the on impact on people. Just look at the circles, look at the two that are doing agribusiness. They have a high impact. But if you don't manage your finances so that you can get your product to that point, because without money, you actually can't get it to that point. If you don't, then you will actually, the general population will be suffering, because your wonderful product that is going to help a lot of women, a lot of farmers, will actually never get out there. They'll be stuck with products that are maybe exploitative, maybe not as good, because you did not manage your finances. Issues right now in terms of financial management that you would have as startups. One, you're mostly focused on the product itself, which is understandable, and those are the skills you have because you're developers. And hiring an accountant, a chartered accountant, you should always hire a very good accountant. Don't hire accountants who didn't study accounting. There are very professional bodies out there. You can just Google and figure out who is a qualified, chartered, certified accountant. That's the accountant you should get. But those accountants obviously are very, very expensive. So those are one of the challenges. Then also the other challenge is that because you're developers or you're in startups, you're very busy trying to get the product, and then you're the marketeer, you're the fundraiser, you're the investor, you're the developer. So you have a lot of things you're doing. And it's understandable why finance would fall on the wayside, because you're very, very busy. And you're usually focused on trying to get the product done. So some of the solutions that I recommend are very simple. Google is your friend, your best friend. There are so many applications online that are free that you can download that can help you with basic financial management, especially as a startup. There are spreadsheets. I'm going to give this presentation so that they can share it with you. So this is just something I Googled this morning. It's available that you can download free Excel spreadsheets that show you how to do a budget, how to do a profit and loss, how to actualize or quantify your assets. So these are free things that you can use. They're important. Use the free resources online. Then read up a little bit about finance. Get one of your team members. I kept asking you, who on your team is actually doing finance? If you don't have anyone on your team doing finance, delegate someone, appoint someone, choose someone who has even a tiny little bit of interest in money, or who is always asking you, how much have we spent? I think it's too much. Get them or her to start working on the spreadsheet so that you quantify exactly how much money you've put in. If you've used transport to get here, quantify it. If you've used your time, you spent sleepless nights actually getting this product, and it's 8 hours of your senior developer time, quantify it. That's what determines the value of the product. Because if you get to your MVP and someone wants to buy, say, your product, your AgriConnect, they want to buy it, and the next thing they'll ask you, how much are you charging for it? And do you know what happens? AgriConnect, sorry, I'm picking on you, but just an example, don't take it personally. AgriConnect will be like, we spent sleepless nights, I used my last coin onto this product, therefore for me I feel it's value X. The investor will ask you, on what basis? I say, no, I spent blood, sweat and tears on it, but on what basis? The only way to get a basis is for you to actually accumulate every point that you put in. If you're 3 people on team members, you spend 5 days developing the product, then quantify it. You know how much they would pay you if you were working for a company, the hourly rate, multiply that and then quantify it. Then if you've used any other, like you've used your social networks, there are some intangible assets. So you can put that in there as well. Like an intangible asset, like I have a connection in Ministry of Agriculture, and they allowed us to, they said that if we get it to the MVP, they will allow us to pilot it. That's not you can't get a value for it, but it's an intangible asset. And someone who is paying for your product has to acknowledge that, and therefore you can eventually put a value on it as you're selling, say, product. But you need to know what it is and how much it is. Then you have to keep all receipts. Like all these Excel spreadsheets where you'll be quantifying your expenses, just put them in a folder. Just have a running tab where you have January, February, March, April. They are very simple, but they're very important. If you don't know how much you're spending, you will not know how much you're going to get or how much you're losing. And that, you need to know how much you're losing. We don't want people who are, as brilliant as you are, developing fantastic products that have an impact, to be frustrated or made poorer because they didn't actually count the money they were investing into the products, or count even the time, or even value the skills that they have. If you're a senior developer, that skill is highly important. If you're going to be hired by a company, they'll pay you X amount. That is the time you're putting in. That's the value of the product that therefore you're developing. It's part of the components of the value of the product that you're developing. I'm talking about also, there's some intellectual property value that you can also get. If you register your product with, you trademark it with URSB, that adds value to your product. And you should as soon as possible, because you don't want to be developing a product that's already patented that you can't actually take to the market. And if you are, it's better to find out right now, and then you can change your course. And if it's unique, then get the trademark. That adds value to your product, and even when you're selling it off, or even when you're raising for investment. An investor will put more money in a product that has a trademark than in one that doesn't have a trademark. Put more money in a product that has its domain name than one that doesn't have a domain name. So those are all things that you need to think through right now as you're developing. And if you don't have them, find out how much they cost and know that that is a cost you will need to actually incur. So when I told you how much money would you need to get to break even, those are costs that should actually be captured. Otherwise, you will never know how much it will really ever cost you.
My name is Susan from Team Kameza. So my question is about quantifying time someone has invested in development of an application or of a system or software. So are there tools that we could use to quantify this time? Because someone may come up and be like, I spent 10 hours working on this, yet the work they have done is work for, say, 1 hour or 2 hours. So how can we quantify this time?
Okay, your friend, wonderful friend to you, but to specifically answer your question, because you should definitely search that and Google and then find, the answers to that particular question. But my answer to you is simple. You're in a team, you're all developers. You all know, I am an accountant, so I know how long it would take someone to do a profit and loss. So if I'm in a team of people and they say they delivered a profit and loss in a whole week, I would know actually it's just a day's work. And therefore, if I'm valuing it, I would put it in a day's work. Because whoever you're going to be fundraising from or getting an investment from is also equally smart. So if you give them ridiculous numbers, they will just won't invest because they'll be like, this person is just overestimating what, they're either incompetent and it's taking them, weeks to do something simple, and therefore, I can't be sure to invest in them because they clearly don't know what they're doing very well, or they're overestimating it, and therefore I can't buy it because it's overvalued. So within your team, of course, you guys know how long it should take someone to do something. You know the market value. If you're a system developer, you know how much a company would pay you, and then you quantify it by hour, and then be reasonable as you're doing that. And in fact, if you spend 12 hours, then yes, but be reasonable, because anyone, a potential investor or someone who's going to put money into your product is going to look at those things. They're going to look at the numbers. Like, how long did it take them to get to the MVP, and then how many hours are they claiming they put in, and what value they're giving it. If it's realistic, that person will trust you and give you their money. If it's unrealistic, they will not trust you, and therefore you'll lose money. Right.
On our question, I think it's a bit incomplete. In terms of quantifying the time you put into development, what entry do you pass in your books of accounts? Because remember, you're creating value, and in accounts you must have debit and credit. Yeah. So how do you pass that entry? Where in the balance sheet, in your income statement, what entry do you pass, and how do you classify that entry?
The development, you would have an asset or, an asset somewhere, i.e. the system itself is an asset worth of work, and the system developers put in whatever, 300 hours, and then I quantify them, the amount, then that's the value of the asset to some extent. But that's just one component of the value of that particular system asset. If you've also trademarked it, you add that value to the value of the asset. If you also have a domain name, you add that value to the asset. If you have connections in government which are going to allow you to pilot your AgriConnect with MyIF, that's an asset that is intangible. You can't necessarily put a value on it, though you can estimate and then put a note in your financial statements and say, this is an estimate, that this connection that I have in my Ministry of Agriculture, which is going to allow me to pilot this this product across the entire country, I estimate it's this amount, because if I was going to do it by myself, it would have cost me this. So you estimate and give a reason why. And normally, if you do have an accountant, they would have basis within which they're doing that. But if you don't, that's fine. Google and search, and you will know exactly how to value every component of your system development. And you should make sure, that's why you need to write everything. You need to write everything. Everything that you're putting into the system development is the asset that you're accumulating, for which you should be charging people in case they're paying you or they want to partner with you. Someone may want to partner with you after you've developed your product to a certain point, but when they're partnering, they want to take 40%. And you're like, but why would you be taking 40%? But if you don't have a basis, I will tell you, well, I think my money is worth 40%. But if you come and tell me that actually this particular system, if I add all the components, the trademark, the domain name, the system development amount of the system developers is actually worth 100 mil. And if you're giving me 20 mil, that's just 20%. You don't get to get 40% when you just give me 20 mil. But you can only say that if you already know what has been put into the system development. If you don't know, I'll come and argue with you and give you 10 mil. You put in 100 mil actually, but you have no proof. And I'll give you 10 and ask you to take 50% of your company. And I will, because you can't justify it. You're just telling me, yeah, I put in blood, sweat, and tears. I was working every night. That doesn't mean anything actually. But you need to write. You need to write and document it and have justifications for it, whatever you're putting in. Okay, I think we'll get started. A lot of you, at least when I did the small survey, a lot of you have already put in your money. Some of you have got money from family and friends to put in. And just like financial management, these are two connected. Startup capital is just as important as product development, so please do not ignore it. It's very important. But for you, that's why I started with financial management. For you to figure out how much startup capital you need to know how much money you actually need. For you to know how much startup capital you've properly invested, you need to know how much money you've so far spent. So, and without startup capital, you can't actually scale up, you can't grow, you can't actually go to the market. So startup capital is important, but for you to start thinking right now, you need to figure, where am I going to get this startup capital? Yes, so far I think most of you are putting in your personal money, but you can't keep putting in your personal money, you become very, very poor. So you need to start thinking through and strategizing, guys, team members, where could we actually get startup capital? Does anyone have a rich friend or a rich father? Most people don't. But you need to figure out how are you going to actually get your product to the MVP. Because if you can't figure out that question, number one, i.e., how much startup capital do we need and how much startup capital do I need to get to MVP at least so that I can start getting investors? If you don't have it, then don't start. Don't even put in your money at all, because you'll be sinking that money under a rabbit hole. So as you're thinking of developing the product, thinking of solving a problem, think about how much capital you need and where you're going to get it from. You're getting startup capital, especially when it's not yours or from family and friends, is that because we are not documenting or quantifying what we need, it's very difficult to convince someone to put money into your product. So most times, if you think through and you say, we need this 10 million Uganda shillings of startup capital, we have 2, we'll get maybe 2 from our friends and family, then the other 6, we're going to get it from an investor. Then the things you need to think about right now is, 1, a marketing plan, figuring out how long it will take you to break even, figuring out how much it will cost you to get to that particular product, and then also having generally financial management processes that you can show someone that every month we actually spend this amount and we will need this amount to actually break even. So in case you intend to at one point stop putting your money in, because that money maybe is just accountable to you, but you intend to ask other people for money, you need to start thinking through these things. They are very, very important. This presentation, we're going to give it to you, but I have to be quick on it. So recommendations is, even if you're investing your money in it, you need to know how much it is, because eventually when you want to get your money out or when it becomes profitable, you need to know how much money you need to pay. Then there are several, it's very difficult, okay, for us in Africa, in Uganda as well, to get angel investors or get crowdfunding or crowdsourcing. But these are the sources I've found online that you can go on, which are specifically targeted at women techs, fintechs in Africa, and they do provide some funding. Go read about their requirements. So half the stuff I've told you here is these people will require. So if right now, as you're developing your system, you start saying, okay, at some point we will need some money from other sources, maybe investors, or we need to do some crowdfunding, then the next step should be, okay, if we wanted to crowdfund, what would they need? Because if you go into the crowdfunding and they're asking you for your expenses for the last 5 months, you'll know why I'm telling you that financial management is just as important as the product development. And then you'll know why you're busy spending hours in a spreadsheet trying to add the numbers there. So you need to know what the requirements are. Most of them would require something like, if you have your patent or your trademark, then you're more likely to actually, because they usually have a criteria. They will say if it's a tech product and it already has a trademark and it has a domain name and then we can actually invest. Then you go to the next level. So you need to know what those levels are, especially if you intend to get money from these such people. And it's good for you to have this information to know. And this information is available. It's free, it's available, it's online. Spend some time on it. Because, like I said, if there's one thing you should take out of my entire 40 minutes of talking, should be financial management, just as important as product development. Without it, you will not actually get your product developed or marketed or seen by the world. Thank you.
By order, someone should stand up who has a question. It can be on the second part of the presentation, or it can still be on the first part of the presentation. The team with a question.
I want to know, what is the difference between an investor and someone who just gives you a grant?
So if your company is worth 100 mil and I give you 20 mil, I want 20%. And then I may also say I need a return on my investment of my 20 mil of maybe 10 mil. So I'll ask you back for 30 mil. And I want that within a certain amount of time. That's someone who is an investor. They'll either take part of your company, take 20%, or they'll ask you, I want you to pay me back in 3 years, 30 mil. In the meantime, I'll own 20%. When you pay me back, I'll give you back your 20%. That's an investor. They need something out of it. They put their money in to get something out of it. A grant, however, is just, I'm Damali, I like your product, I think it's fantastic, here's some money because I think you're going to have a huge impact. And I hope you give me some reports as we go along. I hope you have an impact as we go along. But that's it, I've given you the money. That's the difference.
My name is Diana from UGMAT. My question is about licensing. Do fintechs require licenses, or you can just register it as like trading license or something? And loans and capital from investors, usually they require certain minimum standards or requirements, like say books of accounts, your background, trading license or license. So please wrap it up.
About level 1 principles, and we had a segment of government support. I did talk about supervision, regulation, and I mentioned something like Uganda has, as of last month, enacted the National Payments Act. It was signed by the president. People who are trading in payment systems, typically the fintechs, are now going to be bound by this National Payments Act. Now that includes licensing to be done by the central bank, supervision by the central bank, and everything that it entails, monitoring how you're performing, part of supervision. So to your question, yes, fintechs are going to be licensed by the central bank as per the new regulation of the National Payments Act.
They will need your books of accounts, same things I've been telling you. They will need your governance structures, they will need so look at all those things and see, do we actually meet that criteria? And if you don't, when you don't intend to get money from them, then don't bother with it. But if you intend to, then make sure that you can actually comply. That's why I was asking that question. Do you have anyone on your team who, because when you're developing, okay, I'm not a system developer, but I've seen them. When they're developing, they're stuck in the product, and then they forget everything around it. That's why you need a team member right now whose job has been delegated to actually deal with that aspect. It's very, very important. Compliance is very, very important. And then if you're going to need funding, you need to know what the requirements are. The things that Mark has even talked about. You need to have someone on your team who is actually looking out for those things and figuring them out. Then you're discussing them, because you need to have them as you go along. Otherwise, you'll get stuck. You have your fantastic product, but you're not licensed, and therefore you can't do anything. An investor is asking you, are you licensed in Uganda? Because these are the laws. And if you are, I'll give you, $20,000. And you're not. The investor will move on. And your product development will not be worth a penny because you ignored the financial management and the governance.
Based on Damali's presentation, we did, Damali, for information, we're talking with the teams earlier today about an MVP. Though we're talking about an MVP more from a product development perspective, it's not common that someone like her, who handles a very big portfolio, decides to come and spend an hour. How much would you be paid for each of your hour? definitely she's invested a lot of her money just in those 2 hours with us. And Emily has something special for the special moment today. Emily, come forward.
I'm glad to be here on this special day, and I would like to thank Ms. Damali Ssali for coming and mentoring us with her precious time that she has, knowing that she has worked with a business that has over 300 billion. Thank you so much for being with us here today. And surprisingly, another special thing happening today is that it's someone's birthday. I don't know who that person is, but I guess the person is laughing in this corner, this side. So I would like to notify all of you that today is Miss Damali's birthday, and we have a special surprise for her. Okay, so I will invite my friend help us celebrate her birthday in a very special way. I want to call the first 2 ladies to stand up to come and cut the cake with her. So, 1, 2, 3, we are going to begin, okay? I'm not the best vocalist, but let's begin. Okay, on your lead. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Damali. Happy birthday to you. We wish you many more. We wish you many more. We wish you many more years. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, everyone. This is a huge surprise because I don't normally celebrate my birthdays at all, but this year it has been very special because I figured that I'm going to be spending it with you guys, but I don't normally celebrate birthdays. So I'm really glad, so touched. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
So I'm very excited about the Women in Fintech Hackathon. The main reason for that is that it's very important to have women involved in designing the products for women, because fintechs are particularly actually very helpful to women because they do not have access to bank accounts. They're the ones who cannot afford loan credit. They don't have money for collateral. So fintechs, in fact, are serving that particular market. Unfortunately, right now, a lot of the people who are developing these products that serve women are actually not women. In the 40 Days 40 fintechs, actually, the percentage was only 10% of the 40 fintechs had women leaders. 10%. The other 90% is all men. So it means that men are developing products for women, because the users of fintech products are actually mostly women, are developing products for women without involving the women. And involving the women should not be at the end, at the consumption part. It should be in the design, it should be in the process, it should be in the development, the marketing, everything, the whole way through. After all, women, we are 50% of the population. Surely we should be 50% of the developers of fintechs. By natural default, it should be. And without representation, it can't be possible that actually these fintech products can be developed without representation or input from women. The best product can only be produced if the people it's going to serve are represented and they're part of that development component. And on the flip side is that several studies have actually shown that if your development or your company, your fintech is inclusive, is 50% men, 50% women, is representative, it is in fact profitable. So it actually doesn't make any economic sense right now to have women excluded out of the development of financial technology solutions when it is the women who are actually using them the most. Because it's the women who are mostly vulnerable. It's the women who can't access bank loans. Therefore, they're the ones who are borrowing through fintechs. It's the women who can't afford to, say, go to a supermarket. They're the ones who are borrowing 50 Uganda shillings per day to actually buy something. They're the ones who are using these particular products. So it just doesn't make sense that they're actually not involved in the development, in the marketing, in the leadership of the products. So I like that today we have a Women in Fintech hackathon because it's purely women. We're trying to see that, at least HiPipo is trying to see that we can balance that 10% to hopefully eventually one day we'll get to 50%, where we have 50% representation of women in financial technology. But at least it's trying to tip that balance back to a natural order where we actually support women who are involved in fintech to develop those solutions, which actually service women. So what I've seen today, I'm very thrilled about, because sometimes you go to these places where they say it's a women in fintech hackathon, but you find that the woman is just a token. She's on the side, she's one, and the rest is actually men. She's just put there as a front. But I was very happy to see today that actually it's the women who are in the front seat. They're really in the development. It's the majority women anyway. Yes, I think there were maybe 2 or 3 teams that had some guys on, but the minority was the guy. The majority were women. So it's a real refreshing actually to see that it's not just words, it's not tokenism, it's actually women who are in the front seat. And I like some of the 2 products that actually have been are being developed. The circles, there are 2 teams that are doing circles for women. I like that particular product because circles are a main source of credit for women, especially women who are the bottom of the pyramid. That's the only place they can actually borrow from, because they don't have collateral, they can't walk into a bank, they're not educated. So the easiest place for them to borrow from is a circle. So I like the 2 of the teams in there actually developing financial products for circles, because they will help a lot, especially for women in rural areas, women in markets, women who are trying to trade, women who are trying to get credit but they can't actually access it. So I think those are the 2 most exciting ones. And there are some 2 also who are doing agriculture. Of course, agriculture is the backbone of Uganda. A lot of women are involved in agriculture. We are literally at the farms. We are the labor at the farms, and then after that, after the produce is made, the men take over and they get into the higher end of the value chain. So I like those fintechs that are particularly focusing on agriculture, because then we can empower the women who are actually at the farms so that they don't get pennies, they make money. They can go further up that value chain, which unfortunately right now we are excluded from. We are the ones doing the manual labor on the farm, even in the coffee sector. 80% of the people in the coffee sector are actually women, but they're on the farm. Then the other 20% are the people higher up the value chain, but the women are not represented. We just fall off. After the farm, we fall off. So we get the little amounts that are involved in the coffee sector, even if the coffee sector right now is very profitable. It's one of the highest export. Coffee is Uganda's largest export, with $500 million worth of export of coffee in a year. And the women, 80% are in this sector, but they're at the bottom end. They're at the farm and they're not benefiting from that. So I'm hoping that these 2 products that are connected to agriculture can actually target that group and make sure that the women are much more involved higher up the value chain, so that we can make money out of it. We're involved in this, we are sweating on the ground, but then when it comes to the profits, we are actually not involved. So I'm excited about those 2 products. I think 4 teams are now involved in using those 4 products, but I hope finally, they get to a point where we can actually use them nationally. Also, I'm very happy about HiPipo focusing on women, particularly in fintech. We have a lot of companies that may not necessarily give a special day to women in fintech, actually. So I'm happy that HiPipo really does focus on that. I like that it's not tokenism. They didn't just say it's just one day. It's a whole week worth of a hackathon. It's actually people are going to win an award on it. I like that actually they've also made sure that their mentors who come in. I think yesterday it was Dr. Maggie Kigozi, very highly experienced, wonderful mentor, excellent. I think the ladies in there actually got a lot of bits. I am here today to talk about financial management and also sourcing of financing, because of course that's very important for someone who is developing fintechs. I think the other mentors were coming throughout the week. So HiPipo has not only dedicated a whole hackathon to just women and development so that they can tip that balance. They haven't just paid lip service to it. They've also made sure that the winner is going to get an award so that they can move to the next level. But then also that if everyone involved in the hackathon actually gets these skills through the mentors, and then they can make those particular connections. So I'm really happy about that. I also like the fact that HiPipo has also partnered with Mojaloop and the Guest Foundation to see that the level 1 principles are actually instilled in the products that are being developed right now by the women who are developing fintechs. It doesn't matter even if their product is produced tomorrow, but they know about the level 1 principles. So to see that the future fintechs in Uganda actually apply, by default, just apply those principles. Because, the most vulnerable people in Uganda actually need a transparent, affordable, and accessible fintechs. In fact, it's technology that is actually going to get us out of poverty. And therefore, the products that are being developed right now have to be accessible and affordable and transparent and accessible to see that the poor people can actually get them. So I feel like HiPipo has done a balance of everything. They've made sure the women get a dedicated week, a dedicated hackathon. That is someone actually paying attention, someone who is actually trying to make a difference. So I'm glad about that. I look forward to coming to more of these. I hope they do more women hackathons, because of course one is not enough. We need to do more because we're just at 10%. We need to get to 50% as a country. Thank you.